I think we got it.
We're live.
Good afternoon to all of you who decided to dial in or come here in person. And committee matters. This is a call to order for our P&E meeting on the 7th of July, which just happens to be my birthday. So this will be a special meeting today.
All right.
Public and committee comments. Do you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay. We'll go to number 3, Northwest Transmission Pipeline Replacement Project crossing at Brady Street.
The contractor completed all the contract work and all their outstanding corrective work items. The line is now brought online and has been in service since June 25th. Staff plans to bring this item to the board for acceptance of contract work next month.
So it's up and running.
It's up and running.
And you've got, still have the plastic bag hung on your wall, right?
The plastic bag is hung up on the wall. We're gonna mount it and frame it.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And that's great.
All good news.
Including the crossing at Brady, everything's connected, everything's
Yep.
is operating.
Yes.
All right.
So on that note, engineering has of course now been tasked with beginning the planning stages. We're going to run the Brady transmission, the Brady section of the line through the summer. Cross your fingers, all goes well. But we're starting the planning stages so that next winter when demand is down, our new construction crew can start replacing in earnest. So that is the next focus. It's gonna be a big job for engineering to get that ready and a big job for our construction crew to get ready to start doing some of that work in-house.
Is that going to be leaving the old pipe in place and ditching a new line, or what's the?
To be determined. We're gonna have our first meeting at the E&O committee this Wednesday, right?
Yep.
And we're gonna really start talking in earnest about whether we're gonna rip up the streets, put it in the other side. We're gonna look at all the options and really figure out what makes the best sense for us. And we haven't put all our smart heads together yet to come to a final decision, but that's the process that starts now because we have the summer to plan and the winter to work.
Does one of those options include running the pipe inside the old pipe?
It does.
It could
Yes.
be.
So the pipe we've got out here could be used that way if?
It could. We could have our in-house construction crew sort of dig holes, a mile or so apart, and then we can't do the fusible pipe and pull it through. So it could be part contractor, part in-house. It could be rip the old pipe out. It could be put it in a new place. All those options are on the table. We're going to figure out what is the best solution for us.
Awesome.
When that pipe is down, how do you, I take it that pipe feeds the Bowman tank? Is that correct or vice versa?
Correct.
Okay, so when that line's down, how do you supply the Bowman tank? How do you get water to it? If the Brady line is down?
That comes from
I'm just curious.
Yeah, that comes from well 30 and 31.
Okay,
Yeah, that comes from the southwest fields.
all right,
And that's how kind of we've been running for the last,
okay.
Yeah, it's been
Couple
down
years.
since the Interkern Road.
I guess so.
Started,
Well, I'm talking, that's the northwest line. I'm talking about the Brady line.
but that's what the
Yeah.
Brady line gets fed by.
It's tied into that and it's fed by that line. Oh, okay. So okay, gotcha. So what you want to do is have this committee recommend to the board acceptance of the contract work? Is that what you're asking, Jason?
Not for this meeting, it'll be on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
So that would be August, yes.
The
Okay,
next-
so you're
next
just.
board
you're just-
meeting or
yeah.
the?
we're in discussions with legal about
The pipe.
about the pipe left in the desert that Chuck and some members of the board are very worried about. So should be a lively discussion. And legal will have recommendations and finance will have recommendations, and we'll let you guys on the board decide what you want to do. So think about it. That is going to be a question we're going to leave to the board. We're going to have our recommendation, but
You want to get that solved before we close the contract, right?
well, the contract work is done. So now that's that last outstanding item it's the sort of final payment to the contractor. And the question
Correct, that'd
is,
be for the retention payment.
Okay,
which is their final payment. So the question for the board will ultimately be do we consider the work done even though that pipe is still sitting out there? And Jim is looking at it and we're gonna let legal make their recommendations and so you guys will have to think that one through.
just one quick thing. Wasn't Jason working on getting a quote from Bertrand, if we had to have them take it away, just we have something in our mind of what it would cost if it had to be paid.
I don't know that we could go on their property and take it.
We don't want to take it. We just want to have them look at it and say, if for some reason we had to be responsible for it, what would that take?
Well, I know it was, oh, go ahead.
I'm not sure if he probably was working on it, but he's
Yeah.
gone. So
I know that. I thought
get that number.
Robert had told him something, and we just said, let's get a general idea.
I think it was about 100,000, because I think there was a point in time we were discussing with the contractor, and Justin, remind me if this was true. Like, I thought there was something about $100,000, and the contractor said, oh, Bertrand wanted $100,000 to take it for us, and we weren't going to pay that.
Yeah, they said the steel's worth way more than that, and they weren't gonna give it up for 100 grand.
Well, all for discussion, I guess, coming up.
Guess we'll find out.
And we'll be discussing this at the next board meeting, so we can close out the final contract at the August meeting, hopefully. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Moving right along. Item number, let's see.
I think we're on 5.
Okay,
That's all
we're on
it
number 5. It somehow did 3 and 4 were together.
Actually,
yeah.
I have some item for 4.
Okay, please.
Oh, this should be. Yeah. So I have the water system consolidations update.
Right.
I'll start with the hometown water. The state continues to push hometown to consolidate. Meanwhile, the DDW has approved the final plans and staff is currently putting together expenses to date for reimbursement. For Rademacher Way, construction of phase 1 has been completed. Staff has not been able to obtain signatures on 3 remaining easements and will be consulting legal counsel. On to Dune 3, staff sent the right of entry agreement to all the property owners that are served by Dune 3. All property owners must sign the ROE agreement before the project can be bid. And as of last Wednesday, 10 out of 35 ROE agreements had been returned. The agreement between the district and Dune 3 was approved by the board last month, but still needs to be signed by Dune 3. And the owner of Dune 3 has indicated he wanted to consult his own legal counsel before signing the agreement.
So the hometown was moving along and then suddenly a number of them decided they didn't want to have
yeah,
consolidation?
yeah. So we started this process. It's got to be 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and at that time they had a president of that mutual
Right.
who was done, didn't want to do it anymore, and so it's taken this long time, this amount of time. Home ownership has changed places with a couple of
Wow.
the residents there. There's a new president, and they're not wanting to do it. So
But the state's already, the design work's done,
design-
ready to go. We're just waiting on them to give the go-ahead.
Yeah.
So we're intending to go ahead and build a state for what we've done to date and let them know hometown's no longer interested.
Yeah, so that's the discussion with the state. They're still trying to push them to accept, and we can move forward with the work. But until that time, we're submitting what we have expensed to date for reimbursement. We'll get that paid regardless if the project goes forward or not.
Wow.
That was the one, I remember the outside contract to run the whole thing, and
That was Dune 3.
that was Dune 3. I'm sorry, Dune 3.
Hometown, we were going to do in-house.
We're doing house.
Yeah,
We're ready to go. We just can't get them to agree all of a sudden.
yes.
Wow.
Wow.
And since it was a voluntary consolidation to begin with, I guess the state has limited authority to force it.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I think at the point where they approach I think the state has the authority to force a consolidation. And I think if at some point 5 years ago, they came to the state and said, let's go through this process, I think the state could probably lean back on that and say, I'm sorry, you already agreed to this a long time ago. I don't know that they would want to exercise that authority, but I guess we're going to have to let that play out between the state and the two consolidation.
Okay. Any
Entities.
timeline on that? Or guesses or?
On hometown?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even venture.
I was
to-
thinking 5 years so far. I wouldn't
It's
expect
been-
anything to
it's
happen
been
in a
5
month.
years? 5 years, wow.
It was pre-pandemic, yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks for the
Well,
update.
one more.
Okay. Well, but wait.
But wait, there's more. or an intercurrent CSD. The
Oh,
Water
yeah.
Board has issued a letter on June 6, 2025, strongly recommending that the CSD consolidate with the district and provide a 6-month period during which both systems are to negotiate voluntary managerial and physical consolidation.
Right, that's the one that,
So we have a committee formed. Apparently they are attempting to form a committee or have formed a committee, but they got to get their board to meet. I don't know if something happened to their meeting, so we're waiting. Christy and Iron from their board are in communication. She called me today. She called me last week. I called her back. We've talked a couple of times. So we will let our committee members know when they're ready to meet.
they do understand they just can't put their head in the sand on this and wait. You know, let's just wait and see.
My worry is, we don't really know what all has to happen in this 6 months, which will be now 5 months. Are we going to have time, or are we going to be finding ourselves rushed and unable to actually execute?
I think
If
I think
we
the
don't get
state,
started.
the state understands that there's a high probability that, this mandatory time during which we should attempt to have a mutually agreeable form of consolidation could very well be non-productive. And if that turns out to be the case, and it is non-productive, when that deadline hits, the state will do whatever the state needs to do. That means they could back away. That means they could issue another letter saying, now and we believe the current letter says that if you don't figure it out on your own, we're going to tell you how to do it. And then it'll be we'll all be sort of told what to do by the state at that
I-
point, which
I
is probably
take
the
it-
best option.
I take it, Justin, that if this was to happen, it'd be sort of like the same way the Dune 3 project is being handled, except on a larger scale. That's why, because the state would step in, the contractors would be set up by them and handled by them, depending on, okay, that's what I thought. Long way to go on it, even if it begins to happen.
That's my concern. And
Yeah.
the clock is ticking, and we've already given up a month. It'll be 2 months by the time they get done and have their next board meeting before we arrange a meeting with the ad hoc team.
Yeah.
Well, I see it as this, if the state's going to end up forcing it, and it's going to be some kind of consolidation, whether it is set up to include all the mutuals in the area eventually or just them, the state will help make that decision. My concern is what's the stopgap? If we're in a managerial position, what is the stopgap to keep them running until that consolidation happens, which could be 2-3 years, I think, maybe more.
Could be.
So what's the stopgap's my concern.
Yeah. So we've thought some of that stuff through, but we're going to wait until the state tells us we have to start.
Okay. I had one question on Redemacher. We're done. But there's one particular house that needed to be hooked up. I know that the GA is looking at paying for their hookup to our line, including a meter.
Right.
Is that proceeding, do you know?
So this family has come in and submitted an application.
Okay,
At this time, we're waiting for the plumbing on their side to be done.
okay.
That's through a third party. I'm not sure, I can't remember the organization that's
Maybe
self-help.
Cardinal or
It might be
Self-help.
self-help.
Yeah,
That as well as they have to sever their connection to the well.
right.
Otherwise, we have to put a backflow prevention device in place.
So that's in the works
So we're waiting on those two things to be done before we can set a meter.
for that family.
Yes.
Yeah, so
We're not being stopped from doing that family because we can't get the other signatures.
Right, no, we're not,
Okay.
we're not
Right away
getting
signature.
stopped from
Okay.
them.
Phase one included the one,
Okay.
the one family that had significant issues and showed up at the GA meeting. They're hooked up, running, good to go. Then we have this other house that just voluntarily wants to come in. They have a separate well. The most concerning thing to me is that, like, having started this project, I would think that the GA would want to require that the well be shut down. But that phase two, there are other properties there. If they're unwilling to do it, does that mean we've consolidated a couple of people, but we're not going to the
No.
goal is to shut the well down, I think. So that's going to be, that is not going to be our issue. That's going to be something that will, because I think we initially talked to all those people and they were all okay with it. Now we, just like hometown, we think there may be now some reluctance to do that.
A mess.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I understood that in order for to do the hookup based on this consolidation, the well had to be shut down. And I do know the first one that we're doing, they know their well needs to be shut down because it's junk anyway. As far as the other people on the property that either signed or not signed, we'll take them as they go. I think it was the GA that was saying, if you want us to pay for your hookup to the water line, then, because they found some money to do that, then you got to shut your well down and
Yeah,
destroy it.
I think the problem is that the people who are now reluctant are on the same well as the person that's already been put on our system.
There's no mutuals out there or
No, the Rademacher well served 5 customers, and we've only hooked up 1 or 2. I think 1, right, at this point?
it was a mutual?
I don't believe they're hooked up yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think their side of the piping's done, so we're waiting for that.
I thought that's where the Navy people came in and helped out, because she was the family there, the member was a service member, and they paid for that hookup.
I guess it could be, if it happened Wednesday of last week, then yes, but
You got me all confused. The
I know.
person that started this whole thing, is my understanding, had a single well, which was producing bad water. So they couldn't wash their baby, they couldn't do anything, they were getting, and Chuck was helping them bring out water. Now you're telling me there were 4 other families hooked to that same well, and none of them had the same problem as she did?
that I don't know.
I don't know
understanding-
that.
So my understanding is that there were other houses connected to that same well, and they certainly would have had the same water quality. And I believe the initial consultations we did with them, they all agreed that, yeah, let's get rid of this well, because they all had bad water. And,
That's all new to me. That's just out of
Yeah.
the blue.
yeah, well, that was part of the thing, was like, it wasn't just a single house and a single well. There was just one person who was more vocal than the others, I believe.
Could
I
we,
have
could we look?
No
into-
clue, yeah.
I'll tell you what, at the board meeting, we will clarify all of these things for
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
it was just figure out, so we'll be all on the same page here, because I'm a little confused myself, so.
I'm very confused because you think the other people on the well would be coming out and saying, oh my God, she's
The
right, that
water's-
water's horrible, we can't use it. But they're using theirs and she's not using it, that's an issue.
And just so you know, that's why there had to be a phase 2. Because the
Right.
first person we hooked up in phase 1, that was the one that went to the board meeting at the GA and complained. But phase 2 was required to hook up the other houses so we could get that well taken offline. That's why we had to have a phase 2.
Okay.
We need this clarified. I'm completely lost on this. I thought I knew what was going on. I don't anymore.
Okay.
We'll go, yeah, next week be long enough?
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay. Sounds
We
good.
will,
We'll
I'm
proceed.
pretty sure I'm correct already, but we will double check that my information is correct.
Thank you.
John's getting ready to say something.
Can I speak to this?
Please.
So, from my understanding, the in-laws lived across the street from the kids that needed to go
Right.
get bathed.
Okay,
So the board member and George took a tank to the family that walked their kids across the street.
right, exactly.
The people with the well need a backflow or to destroy their well. So
Right.
they applied for a service. Whether or not they've got it, I do not know yet. We'll follow up with that one.
Is
The
that-
kids,
Go ahead.
the family with the kids,
Right,
there's a service lateral there. I do not know if there's a meter in the ground. The third one was the original man that had the plans designed.
right,
He is hooked up.
okay.
He is fully on our system.
Oh, okay.
So he's good to go.
Okay, so we have one person on our
Yeah,
staff.
Yes.
he wasn't waiting for someone else to come install his side. He
Because
just.
he's the one originally did design work out there,
Yes,
didn't he,
sir.
to bring
Yeah.
water out?
Yes.
So he's hooked up.
So I'm
The
not
woman
for
with-
sure about the family with the kid.
Yeah.
They have a meter or not.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah.
We'll get you the
I don't know
info.
how many, I'm just trying to figure out how many wells there were out there. Does each property have a well? Is there one well serving them all?
No, there was multiple wells out
Yeah,
there.
that's what I thought.
I
I
just don't know how they're all interconnected
Yeah.
because there's a couple people that still have a service lateral off of us that come off of Springer that also have a well.
okay,
So you can see the backflow wire on Springer as well.
right.
So.
Oh, you're talking about the homes right on Springer. Okay,
yes. So there's multiple families out there with multiple wells.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting consolidation project. Not as simple as I thought it was.
I think we'll make a slide and we'll show where the wells are and who's connected to what, so you have a picture of it.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Pictures are always good.
Okay. I'm all done with this one.
Item
I'm so
number,
confused. I'll just get myself more confused if I keep talking.
item number 6, arsenic plants. Who's taking that one?
So happy to report, Arsenic Plant 2 is up and running.
Okay.
So it has all the new media in it and
Wow.
was commissioned the 25th of June. So we have both arsenic plants now. We don't run them at the same time, but they are both up and running.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, that's a good one. do we need to keep that on this agenda? If it's set and running, unless you're planning some other issues with it soon.
Do not jinx us, please.
Okay, yeah.
Because say it seems to pop up and.
Yeah,
Up and-
I would just leave it there.
Yeah.
Things that,
You could say it's fine, everything's running good.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
the other issue in there is whether or not we actually need to treat the water out of one of the wells because. it's been-
11, I believe it was well
Because it's
11.
been producing good quality water for a certain
Yeah.
period of time.
I think
so-
we can report on that, can't we?
Yeah, we did get the authorization from the state to go ahead and start
That's big.
using it without the arsenic treatment.
Nice.
Great. All
And
right.
then we just monitor it, give them updates every month, and
Yep.
then they'll say whether we need to start again. and-
Yep.
All right. Good deal. All right.
Okay, item number 7, recycled water.
Only
I
one
guess
thing
that's
to,
over to you, George.
yeah, only one thing to report here. Krieger and Stewart got the sampling results back from the city wastewater treatment plant, and we have not yet had a thorough discussion on what they are and what they saw. I know that there was one sample that they said they thought was erroneous, but I don't know that we'll get you a full report by next Monday, but we're going to sit down and go through that in great detail. I'll probably end up sending it to you guys just to look at yourselves, the actual sample results from the wastewater treatment plant to see what was coming through there.
Okay. And that would be comparable to the water that the city uses for their alfalfa field, or what's?
That's just basically the waste effluent, and it's just looking to see
Yeah.
what that would help you do ultimately is decide two things. One, what sort of treatment would be required to remove all those contaminants, and then sort of decide whether that's a cost-effective thing or whether, understanding what would need to be treated
Yeah.
and to what level would help us gain a much better understanding of what options are there for recycled water.
Okay, and our baseline is the current output from the wastewater treatment plant, which treats the water to some level.
Yeah, that's what this sample was taken from.
Okay, thank you.
So we're plugging along a little at a time without spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
We're trying
this
to
was
do
a
this,
fairly
once we-
low cost.
Yeah, once we get that in our hands, and then Justin or somebody or whoever can start looking, what's out there, what's a more economical way to do it, reverse osmosis. I mean, there's all kinds of new ways to treat water. And I do know, because we spoke about this with the legislators extensively about wastewater, how the interest for Searles Valley Minerals was there as well, to take it in I believe they could take it as secondary, maybe not tertiary, but secondary, and they can use it somehow, but not in their boilers. People think they can take bad water or mineral water and use it in their boilers. They cannot. That's when you talk about water being used at the plant, they're taking the best water they can, and it still has to be treated some more before it goes into the boilers.
Would the board need to authorize us to share that information with Searles Valley, the results of the sampling? I mean, because they may be looking at other things.
I have no problem with that. I mean, board.
I don't think we would.
Because I have a feeling that this could easily be a joint project. And if it is, because if they can take the water at less of a treated level and utilize it to their good without spending a whole lot of money on it, then of course, the more they take, the less they have to pump.
Sure.
And less they have to pump benefits.
So I will take that as an okay for me to
Yeah, I don't
send that via email over to Searles and say, hey, we just did this sample, just if you're interested.
We're in a
take look.
good partnership with them.
And
And
it's-
no matter what
well-
happens with wastewater, it's going to be 3 people sitting at the table, the water district, Searles Valley Mineral, and the city.
Yeah.
However it works out, in my
Okay.
opinion, yeah.
Because the city already has it as
Yeah,
well. So,
yeah, I'd do it.
okay, thank you.
I don't think there's any trade secrets there either.
No, but I could tell you that the legislators we talked to are looking at that because they're hearing the numbers about the pumping that will be taking place once farming is gone. And we're going to be down in between the 10 and 12,000 acre foot a year, which means we may need none if our yield is correct. But if we do need some, why aren't we using wastewater? So that is going to become an issue.
Right.
I don't think it's going to get the idea that's just going to drop. Our goal is to find out, can we make it economical? That's the whole idea. Yeah. All right.
Very good. Okay, future agenda items. Do you have anything, Ron?
I don't have anything. How about the staff? You got anything that you guys want to add to this?
I got a couple things that
Okay.
list on here. I have 2025 Public Health Goals Report,
Okay.
La Mirage Housing Area Grant Funding,
Oh, yeah. I forgot about La Mirage housing.
Transmission Pipelines Inspection, Springer Avenue Pipeline Schedule, Imported Pipeline Infrastructure Upgrades, and also want to note the triannual Public Health Goals Report will be coming to the committee and board next month. Oh, never mind, that was the same.
The only thing I can see that might be added to this, if you wanted to, if the engineering feels it's time, is the La Mirage area, because that's going to become, I just get the feeling we're on borrowed time with that area. It's not in real good shape.
We've been on borrowed time since I've started here.
No,
It's a hard system to keep up with. You know, I figure a lot of that was put in the late 40s, 50s.
Wow.
So it's odd sized pipe for us to make repairs on. And you have infrastructure that's in people's yards that goes under private roads.
Right, that's,
That is the customer service. And, you know, we've been working with them, trying to help them out. And it's tough. I mean, they're all feeling it over there, so.
So I'll say this too, we're gonna have an extended discussion in the admin exec committee meeting, because I believe we're going to begin enforcing some of the regulations that we have against wasting water more stringently in that area, not on individual households, but on larger, we'll call it landlord-owned places who are renting it out. So they have maybe 10 or 20 or however many units they have, and they just pay one big bill, but
one
they
big-
seem to have, leaks that they do not address appropriately. And so one of the things that we can do to both conserve water and ensure that we start getting, activity, getting the number of leaks there down, is to begin bringing some of these enforcement actions against these sort of, we'll call them wayward landlords who are just paying the bill and allowing the leaks to occur. But that'll be discussed at some length, and we'll need board approval to really push forward with what I would call probably more of a
Quit wasting
hard
water.
line approach, not targeted at individual people who live there, but at the larger landlords who don't seem to care.
I think it should go on here, this agenda.
Hmm.
And it needs to be, because I don't want to see, like you said, it's been on the last leg for 40 years.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know, whether it gets pushed aside. I'm not gonna say, I know money's always the issue, but I guess we're gonna start looking for some kind of grant. And we have somebody in Sacramento who can help us with that once we get through this stuff and look for that money and help get it somewhere. But I think it needs to be on here.
Yeah, it may not be a
Okay.
permanent addition, but we. at
Yeah,
least
I mean,
it-
just so we know where we are with it and
So,
it doesn't go away.
okay.
Yeah. And the Springer line, I'm not sure it needs to be on here yet, because the Springer line is really the addition of another line, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because I don't want people to get the idea that the Springer line's getting ready to fall apart on us. We're adding to it because of the
We're upsizing.
upsizing. Yeah,
Taking away a restricted air.
I don't know that it needs to be on here until it becomes time that we want to look at it. I think
And that's a scheduled increase to our capital.
yeah, the Brady
Improvement.
line is more important
Right.
at this particular point. And I know I asked that Justin start using his X-ray vision to look at all that piping out there with the concrete, with the steel in between. Yeah.
So are we going to add the Brady line? Is something we talk about at these meetings as well?
I'm gonna leave it up to staff. Do you want the Brady line on here just to keep us up with it, or
I think we'll have our meeting this week, and then we'll
side?
know a little more. Maybe it may be a little premature in August, but we'll look at what we have.
Okay, we'll just talk about the next P&E.
Perhaps we'll add something called current future upgrade, particularly for the construction crew, like, they're going to focus on the Brady line, or they're going to focus on La Mirage, they're going to focus on the Springer line as those projects. Maybe we'll just put under a generic heading of construction crew, future, progress or priorities. How about that?
That'd be fine for me.
I wouldn't mind if we,
Curious about the financial side of it. How are we going to?
or anything else. When we're going to consolidation, I always said, why can't we bullet point the ones we're working on? Because I tend to get them mixed up with just a brief description on them. For some reason, I don't know if Renee doesn't want to do it, but under consolidation, why can't we just have bullet points of hometown, Redemacher, Dune 3, so we keep it straight? Mr. Chair, I think that this agenda, in my opinion, is mostly to be decided by the staff. I think is, what we like to do is the board is to give them, there's a few things we want on it. Like I like to keep recycled water on, but when it comes to these projects, I think the staff is the one that just should decide what is most important to talk about at this committee, keeping in mind the guidelines. In other words, like I said, we don't want to put Springer on here because people think it's a big issue. So keep those kind of things in mind. If you don't agree with me,
It's already part of our urban management,
Yeah.
water management plan,
right,
right? I mean, scheduled in there, we know what year,
Right.
we know where it is in terms of priorities, so it's,
so I think it's a staff issue, except a few things maybe that we want on here. Like, to me, the only thing is keep an eye on recycled water. Everything else on here is as far as I'm concerned, what staff feels is
status
important.
updates. Yep,
Update, yeah,
concur.
Okay.
all right. That's all I got.
Okay, well, we will adjourn at 3:31.
Well done.
Thank you.